My name is Anthony Clarke and I'm a member of the World Transformation Movement. I can remember a moment one afternoon back in 1993 whilst I was living on the Gold Coast. I was sitting in my bedroom listening to the radio and there were two songs that stuck in my head. One song was by World Party called Is It Like Today, and the other was by Spy vs Spy called Comes a Time. Both songs were reflecting on the less than ideal state of the world and how we personally adopt different ways of blocking it out. So I remember thinking at that time about the world's problems, about the human dilemma, and thinking, someone will work it out. I don't know when it will happen, but someone will work it out. Little did I know that at the time that it had already been worked out. 2 years later, I heard about Jeremy Griffith and his ideas through the media, and I was very curious. I read Beyond the Human Condition, and it just blew me away because it answered so many of the questions that I had struggled to find answers to, as well as questions that I had not even thought of asking. The information made the world around me transparent and explainable. It was so profound, it made perfect sense, it dignified all humans, and it gave hope for a real repair of ourselves and our planet. So I made contact with the FHA, as it was then known, and kept in touch, making the occasional weekend visit. I was quite fired up that I had access to this world-changing information, and initially tried getting others interested, but to no avail. I'm pretty sure, looking back, that at the time I was trying to get a win out of the fact that I had access to the information. It didn't take long before I came up against what we call a Mexican standoff in myself, where the information was making my old strategies to life look decidedly flawed. But being stubborn, I persevered with them. So some of the strategies or causes that I've used throughout my adult life to make myself feel worthwhile were trying to get wins out of playing sport or supporting sporting teams, gambling on horse racing, trying to achieve personal financial freedom, getting into a lot of self-improvement courses, dabbling with alternative and new age feel-good philosophies, and in general trying to be a so-called nice guy. As I look back on all the distractions I've chosen, the things that have consumed a lot of my time, when I analyse them, they were just ways for me to try to block out reality and to find some sort of happiness. Over those years, I would often think of the possibility of becoming a member of the foundation, but I would always write it off, thinking I'm just not made of the right stuff. So after many years of this, I basically reached a point where I was disenchanted with where I was at. I was in a rut in many areas of my life. Nothing was working out. After a weekend visit to the FHA in May 2006, I got fired up again about where the project was heading, and I decided the time was right to make the move to Sydney to become a member and be able to support the project more directly. Now that I look back on those first 2.5 years in Sydney, I see that I was still ruled by many of my old strategies and insecurities. I hadn't made any real fundamental changes in terms of my priorities or my attitude. I remember being confused about the transformed state that the people who were in it talked about. It all seemed very out of reach. Things changed earlier this year though. We had 2 really good transformation meetings that left me buzzing. Also, I started to get back to regularly listening to some good FHA talks and reading Jeremy's books and some of the old newsletters on my trips to and from work. So I was feeling much more connected, very positive, and as if something was ticking away. I just knew that I had to listen again to a compilation of John Biggs's best talks. I had listened to it once before, 2 years earlier, but it just went in one ear and out the other. I was probably too confronted by it back then. So there I was on a bus on my way to work, and I was able to zone out enough to focus on what was being said. There were many crucial points that John made, and there's 5 that really hit home for me. 1. The quotes from A Species in Denial about the explanation of the extreme dysfunctionality of the resigned mind. 2. His observation that, being resigned, we are basically mad, unable to think effectively. 3. The need for honesty as step 1 in the transformation process, which leads to making the decision to do what's right. 4. We can trust in the information 100%. And 5. For the transformation process to work, we need to keep it simple. I decided to be brutally honest with myself about my own corrupted, selfish, resigned state. It was time to get real. I had not yet fully bottomed out on the whole concept of resignation, that I am a resigned human, I am that tortured wretch on the front cover of Species. It's as though before I thought resignation was something that others had gone through, but not me. I had only been paying lip service to the whole subject. This was a key realisation and felt like a major roadblock had been removed. So I remember being on that bus in my own little world, all the usual buildings flashing by, with visions of the Anzac soldiers at Gallipoli in my head, and I just literally felt like parts of me were being stripped away. It was a really pure and peaceful feeling. A few days later at a smaller group meeting, I spoke more about my realisations and a lot more honesty flowed out. That was when I felt a wave of relief and joy. I remember lying in bed that night and just feeling lighter. I couldn't sleep. All these different songs were going through my head. I remember thinking, this really is simple. If I can do it, anyone can. Who's next? So this next stage that we're about to embark on is just so exciting, and I know that I'm very lucky to be involved. Time is of the essence, so I have no intention whatsoever of getting bogged down trying to analyse, unravel all the details, complexities, causes of my personal condition. As I look back on my life and the distractions I've chosen, the things that have consumed a lot of my time, when I break them down, they're just ways for me to try to block out, to maintain a sense of self-worth and to find some sort of happiness. What we have in our hands now is a real source of happiness. Looking back, I feel like the transformation process requires a change of heart, but it's a personal thing and the change of heart has to be made willingly. The decision to make the change will be your best friend and you will never forget the day that you made it. The decision will be the rock that underpins the rest of your life. You will never stray far from it. It will be like the first rung on the ladder of the most meaningful of lives. You can now start afresh, unburdened, with a clarity of mind and purpose to willingly go and serve now and to participate in the most important project the world has ever seen. I can tell a difference in my attitude now. It's like chalk and cheese, where I can be doing some sort of task and I'm doing it willingly rather than begrudgingly. It's like flicking a switch. I really think too that the confusion that I had felt before towards the transformed state was simply procrastination in disguise. I've always been an expert at procrastination, and what makes it easier to procrastinate is when you're unable to look at the big picture. The big picture of the true magnificence of what we have in our hands now, namely supporting the information that has solved the human condition. This is a true win-win situation. Everyone wins. This is 1,000 times bigger than my old collection of reinforcements, strategies and empty causes. Now I really just want to live it. To be part of the conduit generation, which will pass on the understandings intact to the next generation, leading to a race of humans who will be totally unresigned. The universal beings who are just around the corner. There will be peace on earth. The band U2 has an older song called Acrobat, and part of the lyrics say, I'd join the movement if there was one I could believe in. Well, this is it, the World Transformation Movement. Another U2 song, a more recent one called Unknown Caller. Here's part of it, and for me it sums up part of what the transformed state is all about. Go, shout it out, rise up, escape yourself and gravity, force quit and move to trash, restart and reboot yourself. You're free to go. Shout for joy if you get the chance. Thank you.